So welcome everyone to the Marin Local Agency Formation Commission meeting. And it is June 13th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. It's a regular meeting and we're meeting at the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority Meeting Room, Suite 335, 1600 Los Gamos Drive, San Rafael. And with that, someone going to read the early part? Public access and public comment?
No, we don't need to read those into the record.
Okay, so I'm calling to order the meeting, and Madam Clerk, could you do a roll call, please?
Chair Kohler,
I'm here.
Vice Chair Rodoni,
Here.
Commissioner Lucan,
Here.
Commissioner Murray,
Here.
Commissioner Bordeaux,
Absent.
Commissioner Caius,
Here.
Commissioner Chu,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Moulton Peters,
Absent.
Alternate Commissioner Burke.
Absent.
And
Madam
alternate Commissioner Hilliard.
Oh, Alternate Commissioner Hilliard,
Okay.
absent.
Okay, so with that, just a quick agenda review. Does anyone have any wants or needs to change things? I see nothing in the room. Okay, let's go on to public open time. And this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the commission on any matter not on the current agenda. All statements that require a response will be referred to staff for reply in writing or will be placed on the commission's agenda for consideration at a later meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. I see no members of the public here. Are there any members of the public on Zoom?
No.
Okay, closing open time. Consent calendar items. Did anyone want to pull anything from consent? Seeing none in the room, are there any comments on Zoom on consent?
No.
Okay,
The consent calendar.
okay, so that was Commissioner Murray. Would someone like to second?
I'll second.
Okay, so that was Commissioner Caius, and Madam Clerk, could you do a roll call, please?
I'm
If
happy to, but no one's attending virtually, so
Oh, so we can just say all in favor?
yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to the public hearing, and the first item is adoption of the final operating draft budget for fiscal year 2024-2025. And Executive Officer Freed, would you like to do the staff report?
Sure. I always like to yield to the budget chair if they have any comments before I give the staff report.
Okay, and I believe that's Commissioner Vice Chair Rodoni.
Correct.
Yeah, no additional comments. We've
Okay.
seen this before, and I know you made some technical adjustments.
Yes, so you beat me to my punchline. I made some minor technical adjustments. What you will see in front of you is a lowering of our request to member agencies. We were at 9.8% and we dropped that down to 7.11%. As a friendly reminder, we are getting our budget back to what I consider the pre-COVID level. We lowered our amount by 10% to help folks out through COVID. And are now starting to get our budget back. And so if you actually consider our increase from the pre-COVID budget, we're only increasing by 5% above what we did 5 years ago. So over a 5-year period, that's, less than a 1% increase per year. I think that we've done a very excellent job, both the budget committee and staff and the commission, of keeping our budgets tight and not doing unnecessary spending along the way. So with that, you have in your packet the budget. If you have any questions on it, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions of staff on the budget or of our budget committee? Press your mic, please. Commissioner Murray.
So just a couple quick ones. There's pretty large variation of professional services increase there. You kind of indicate, I think we're talked about the amount of work on staff is kind of lessening, and
that is just the professional services is really more just professional costs are going up, and we need to adjust for it. If you go further down in the budget, you will actually see that we are just slightly overspending this year on professional services. So we had to make an adjustment for those services. A lot of it is actually the GIS, now that we've taken GIS work in-house, it's costing us a little bit more on the professional side because that we used to pay for that through our membership dues, which we lowered our membership dues, but we had to increase our professional services to cover those costs.
Okay, thank you. Just last one is conferences and travel, and they're separated. Are they really kind of the same, or what's the thought on travel? Is that staff travel or
Travel covers multitude of things. Part of it is travel to the conference or staff workshops. Part of it's just if someone's, if Jaren or Claire drive to something on behalf of Marin, they get IRS reimbursements for their travel costs. So there's a multitude of things that get put into the travel budget itself.
okay, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Are there any questions on Zoom?
There are.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me just say, I'd like to open the public hearing for the final operating draft budget. And are there any questions on Zoom?
We have no members of the public present.
Okay, then bringing it back, closing the public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move to adopt the 2024-2025 budget.
Okay, would someone like to
Second.
second? Okay, so that was Commissioner Chu, second, Commissioner Lucan. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that matter passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Now for the big boy. Presentation of the multi-regional service review public draft. This is a hearing for the commission to review and make recommendations. This hearing will be continued to the next meeting. Deputy Executive Officer Seibel, did I pronounce your name correctly? Would you like to do a staff report?
I would love to. Thank you, Chair. So the public draft was released on Tuesday, May 14th. Since all of the commissioners here have now been through at least one municipal service review experience prior to this, this presentation will be pretty straightforward. The multi-regional services MSR encompasses a total of 5 agencies that each provide municipal services across multiple geographic areas of Marin County. The agencies reviewed in this study are the Marin Municipal Water District, North Marin Water District, Marin Healthcare District, Marin County Open Space District, and Marin County Service Area number 31. There we go. Here's a quick look at a map of all the agencies' boundaries that were included. While we are on the topic of maps, through the research and analysis of this MSR, it was discovered that there were a good amount of GIS mapping edits that either didn't get made the last time some of these agencies were reviewed, or in some cases, GIS layers that had just never been created to begin with for some of the agencies. So just to bring the commission up to speed on the mapping work that was required during the course of this study, a layer for both the jurisdictional boundary and the sphere of influence of the Marin Healthcare District had never previously been created. So that was taken care of and is now publicly available in our GIS web portal. The same goes for the Marin County Open Space District. That had never been made, so we took care of that. Also, amendments that were made to the spheres of influence for North Marin Water and MMWD back in 2016 and 2017 were never updated within the GIS layers, so those corrections were made. Lastly, in working with North Marin Water staff, as well as the State Board of Equalization, the 5 parcels in Sonoma County that were annexed back in the 60s were pinpointed and are now included in the GIS layer for that agency so that everybody can see that does indeed stretch beyond the Marin County boundary. Within this study, there was obviously a lot of information provided on many different aspects of the agencies encompassed, and ultimately all of that information is compiled to be able to complete each of the 7 determinations. Some of those determinations include recommendations from LAFCo that will require additional efforts moving forward, either on behalf of the agency or LAFCo staff, or a collaborative effort between both parties. Within this study, the determinations that will require additional efforts moving forward include the following. North Marin Water District OSA parcel transfer for the discussion of the approximately 30 parcels north of the Marin boundary within Sonoma County that are not actually formally annexed to the district. They are just OSAs. You're going to have a discussion, a sit down with the city of Petaluma, Sonoma LAFCo, North Marin Water District in order to explore the transfer of those outside water service parcels that were approved in the late 70s through the 1980s. Number two, the staff from Marin LAFCo should work with contracted GIS consultants in order to remove parcel APN 166-030-34 in the general vicinity of the unincorporated community of Olima from Marin LAFCo's GIS mapping system, as after collaboration with staff from NNWD, it's been determined that that parcel was excluded from the annexation of this area in 1967. Third, representatives from Marin LAFCo, North Marin Water District, and the Inverness Public Utility District should convene to explore an efficient, organized, and publicly well-communicated manner in which to detach the parcels within the jurisdictional boundary of the Inverness Public Utility District from the North Marin Water District. 4, representatives from Marin LAFCo, Marin County Fire Department, on behalf of County Service Area Number 31, the Town of Tiburon, the Tiburon Fire Protection District, California State Parks, and the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection should convene to explore the current status and future possibilities of the organization and efficiencies of fire protection services for Angel Island State Park, as well as the consideration of the detachment of the area from Marin County Service Area Number 31 and/or the Town of Tiburon. Number 5, the Marin Municipal Water District should explore the feasibility of further collaboration with wastewater agencies in central and southern Marin County to continue to expand its provision of recycled water throughout other geographic portions of its service area. 6, given the contiguous nature of a number of Marin County open space districts preserves in relation to the public lands of the Marin Municipal Water District, the Marin County Open Space District and MMWD should explore a shared services agreement with the intention of expanding the Open Space District's current annual offering of free naturalist guided walks through public open spaces. And lastly, throughout the course of this study, there have been several instances of some level of ambiguity surrounding the correct jurisdictional area of the North Marin Water District and the multiple large annexation areas in past decades. In order to ensure current and future accuracy, staff from NNWD should compare current district records with what is currently displayed within the public-facing Marin LAFCo GIS web application and work collaboratively with staff to rectify any further instances of boundary discrepancies. A couple of other items that the commission can expect to see when this item is revisited at the August meeting will be the establishment of an SOI for CSA 31, as during this process, it was discovered that despite language to the contrary, an SOI has never been established for CSA 31 after it was formed in the mid-90s. That SOI will be recommended to leave Angel Island out to show the commission's intention to address the current issue of the provision of emergency services to that area. The other item will be the amendment of North Marin Water's SOI to remove open space area to the north of the Oceana Marin area and add the jurisdictional lands along the east shore of Tomales Bay that aren't currently included in the SOI.
Just quickly, I just want to recognize that Commissioner Roberto has joined us, so let's make that part of the record. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Okay. The public comment for this study is currently ongoing and will run through the end of the day on Friday, June 28th. As of this morning, the only comments received from either the agencies involved or any members of the public has been one agency with minor language edits. We have received comments from a couple of commissioners. And I do want to make a large note of my appreciation for the work from the staffs of all the agencies involved, particularly North Marin Water, as there was a lot of back and forth. Claire did a lot of work with them, really trying to figure out and identify these parcels in the Sonoma side, working with them, working with the State Board of Equalization, and kind of unraveling that puzzle. So big appreciation to their staff and their responsiveness. And with that, I will turn it back over to the commission for any questions or discussion that you might have on this item.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions of staff? Comments? I have one question, but Lou, did you have your hand? I didn't see.
do.
Okay, go ahead. Oh,
Broke it. I don't disagree with anything that you put in there about recycled water into the Marin. So this is not a disagreement, it's just a comment. But that is not a new topic, as you know, but the commission may not know. Approximately 7 or 8 years ago, SASM and Marin Municipal Water District combined to have a consulting contract done to analyze recycled water in Southern Marin. There's a volume that's about this thick, roughly, the findings of that, and it was deemed not to be financially feasible primarily from a storage standpoint. What do you do with it once you recycle it? And it was revisited a couple of years ago, and none of the significant facts had changed. So that's the reason why it hasn't been done so far. So it's not that it hasn't been considered or supported or desired. It just didn't financially make any, it doesn't pencil out. So.
And
anyway.
just to make sure I'm correct on this, that was just MMWD and SASM. That didn't include Sausalito Marin City Sanitary District.
It didn't include them,
Okay.
but they were a part of it, indirectly, and they concurred what the findings were.
So I have a question of staff, and I had provided this earlier. I work kind of closely with the Marin County Open Space District, and they manage about 18,000 acres of open space and parkland. MMWD manages actually owns about 22,000 acres. I know that Marin County Open Space District staff are understaffed, and for them to do a shared services agreement, I can't speak for them, but I think I don't think that's sort of something that is really in the cards. I don't think they have the staff to really be able to do as much as they would like to do on their own property. So to do shared services, I think I would prefer that the recommendation specifically state that MMWD should seek to emulate. They have biologists, they have rangers, and I think that they need to step up and start really looking at how they can provide some of those kind of services, because their land is very well used. So I would prefer that we change that recommendation, because I think whether they do it or not, it's really a missing link, but I don't think we should think that Marin County Open Space and Parks really could even consider a shared service agreement this time. I mean, I would defer to the president of the Board of Supervisors, who's also the president of the Marin County Open Space District, but just in my workings with them, they are stretched really thin.
So I will say that perhaps on my behalf, that was just poor wording. The idea and the intention behind that were not for Marin County Open Space District to be stretched further than what they currently are, but rather that grant funding to expand this might be better served if a collaboration between those two large entities is shown. So I am happy to reconstruct the wording of that to make it seem less of a complete onus on Marin County Open Space District, if that's how that came across. And that, again, I think the intention behind that is, as you said, MMWD has a ton of public land, and a lot of it is adjacent to a lot of these Marin County Open Space District preserves. And that feels like an easy, maybe not easy, but a possible collaborative win for the residents of Marin County to have additional access to these spaces, especially through those guided tours. So that was definitely the intention behind it.
Okay, and I think it would just be a good idea to really just say MMWD can learn from the experiences of Marin County Open Space District as to how they do it, and they should seek to really consider it. So that's just one thing. And the other thing, and I'm not disputing what Commissioner Kaya says, but I know just my following what's happening at MMWD is they're looking at a lot of options for the future, and maybe it won't go anywhere, but they have talked about looking at recycling water, and they said it's very expensive. Storage is the issue, as you point out, but at least in what I read, they're looking at anything and everything. So thank you for that. So I want to open the public hearing on this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Vice Chair.
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. It's regarding open space, Marin open space. It's sometimes confusing, but we need to remember that Marin County Parks is separate from Marin County Open Space. And I don't know that the public often recognizes that, and whether there's an opportunity to say that here somewhere.
I did try to be, because I know there can be confusion among that, especially in the manners in which the ways that funding is being sent. I tried to be very intentional in my wording to make sure that that was clear.
Thank you. And then I was going to comment on the Marin Water and the Open Space District. I think it's good to get them talking and talk about what benefits there can be to the public, but I think it's pretty complicated because both are stretched out in terms of resources, like you say. And so expectations should be reasonable. and I think they are. And there is a lot of access to both properties, in the watershed. So I think that, but it's good to point it out, and the collaboration is important. The North Marin Water District, just a note for commissioners here, it indicates it's a water district, but just a reminder that in Dillon's Beach, Oceana Marin, they're actually providing sewer service, not water. So just so you know, yeah. So just so you know, but it's in the spirit of the water district. So thank you.
Okay, any other question? I'm sorry I went ahead. I didn't know you had a comment. Any other question? Oh, Commissioner Murray?
So I have a number of items and things on here. I think I'll just draft them up and forward correspondence to staff. But I think the recommendation part on the upfront is really nice to see, rather than we talked about after action and things that could carry on when these things come back up in another 5 years. So nice to see that. Thanks for putting that in there. Some of the things are technical, just like what does LAFCo's responsibility not include? And that's on page 6. School districts, community college districts, assessment districts, improvement districts, community facility districts, air pollution control districts, but also should include transportation districts in that list. So things like that, Jaron, I'll forward back to you. Some of the other things that kind of caught my attention were, since I was on the duck committee, the 2 ducks, and I'm not sure how many people here on the commission or certainly the public know what California Park is. And I looked up on some of the history in Marin from like 1929, going from San Quentin to San Rafael. Now I believe it to be on the west side of 101 Woodland, and there's a small circular area. And remember, as a kid coming up from Greenbrae and Bret Harte Road down and through that area. So I think the report will be enhanced with some of the GIS maps showing particularly the ducks that are included in this report. Other things like huge losses in the healthcare district in their balance sheet. So I'm not sure if that needs to be qualified. I know the revenues are relatively minor, like 500,000 a year. So that may want to be pointed out, just the graphic showing that shows that, hey, these guys are really in the red, and that might need to be qualified. Other things are some typos and things I've caught that I'll forward. And then there are a few other substantial items I'll forward as well.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Murray. Anyone else? So with that, I would like to open the public hearing on the multi-regional service review public draft. I see no one in the room. Are there any comments on Zoom?
There are no members of the public on Zoom.
Okay, I'm closing the public hearing, and we don't have a specific action on this, correct?
No, you just need to continue this item to the next meeting.
Okay, so do I need a motion to continue it?
Yes.
Okay, I see Mala shaking her head. So would someone do a motion to continue this to the next
I'll
meeting,
move the continue item in the next meeting.
which is, what is the date? August 8th.
August 8th.
August 8th.
Thank you. Would someone like to second that? Okay, so that was Commissioner Murray, seconded by Commissioner Berto. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. Okay, now we're moving on to business items.
We have one more public hearing on the
Oh,
OSI.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right.
You want
It's been
me-
a crazy couple of weeks. So ratification of approval of LAFCo file number 1377, emergency out of service agreement to Novato Sanitary District for 2 Hanson Road in Novato, California for 1 year. And you might want to mention the one item I brought up.
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
So on May 29th, we received a notification from County Environmental Health that there was a failed septic tank at 2 Hanson Road. And they needed to be immediately connected to Novato Sanitary because they were a close enough connection for that property to do. When I got that letter, I immediately contacted Chair Kohler and we had a discussion about how the process works, what we need to do. Because these are emergency situations for environmental health reasons, we do not wait for an application to come to LAFCo. We have the ability and authority to offer an emergency connection service. We always offer that service for 1 year. That gives the applicant enough time to both get the connection done, but then go and get the application and all the materials that go with the application together. Gives us time then to review it, put it through the formal process and annex them into the district. That normally, I would imagine in about 6 months, you will see that application come. 6 to 8 months is about when I anticipate seeing that application come, because it does take a little bit of time to put an application together. So what we did is it took them a couple of days to work with Novato Sanitary, the property owners to work with Novato Sanitary to figure out how is that connection going to work. And Novato Sanitary authorized the connection to occur. When that occurred, I checked in once again with Chair Kohler, and we both agreed that everything was in shape and in order. Both Novato Sanitary and Marin LAFCo in our letter, which you'll see in the packet, both mentioned that they have 1 year for this connection. If for some reason they don't come back to us within that year to get a connection done, Novato Sanitary would be prepared to disconnect them at that time because they will have run out of their process. I will say that the applicant has been has already started working with Claire to get an application put together. So I'm not too concerned right now about them not coming back to us. And I understand that connection has already been done because it was done over the weekend. We put it on a Friday, and by that following Monday, I understand that connection was supposed to be completed. So everything's in place. The Marin LAFCo policy requires, that any emergency OSA is brought to the commission for ratification, and that is what we are doing here today.
Thank you. Any questions of staff?
Just quick.
I have a comment, not a question. so
Okay,
take the
let's, I
questions
think I
first.
saw a hand first over here, Commissioner Murray. And then Dennis, and then Berto.
So, Jason, in the past, when Novato properties come up for these considerations, sometimes the city chimes in with the urban growth boundary. And I know you probably have reviewed it. I didn't see anything in the report on this, but since it's kind of the only unique municipal issue there in Novato relative to annexations, that may be important to point out.
They're inside the city of Novato, so there is no urban growth boundary issues to worry about. They're inside the city, so the city will issue permits if they needed to. Although I understand this parcel already had, from the sewer pipe to the property, already had the lateral on that side put in. So all they had to do is take it from the house down to where the pipe was, and didn't even need to get a street permit to connect.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, so Vice Chair Rodani, his question was answered. Commissioner Berto, did you have a comment?
Comment, yeah.
Well, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to express my gratitude to staff for this. Back when I first joined LAFCo, Jason gave me the intro session. We went over things, and he said at the time, like, this is just kind of a basic overview. You'll see the more intricate things as they come along. This was one of the things that we briefly discussed during that time, like what happens in emergency situations. And really grateful that we're acting quickly on this, and it sounds like everything was really smooth too. Not just for the hardship of the homeowner here, but also for the environmental impacts. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lucan.
I was just going to echo that. Commissioner Berto took all my comments, but no, I was not on the board when this policy was put into place, but it's really great. It seems like there was nothing in our process that slowed down any connection. We were able to move and respond very quickly. They got their connection, and now they need to do their application process. So I think it's a really well thought out policy, and it looks like it worked exactly as it was designed. So way to go.
Yeah, and while we're in the process, thank you. I just want to thank Jason. Immediately contacted me We talked through it. Then he sent me the follow-up information once he had everything in place. So kudos to you, Jason. And it really shows you that we can be very nimble and, not hold things up with needless bureaucracy and still make sure that things are done right. So thank you. I would like to open the public hearing. I see no one in the room. Are there any public comments?
No one from the public's on Zoom either.
Okay, bringing it back, closing the public hearing. And would somebody like to make a motion?
I will, but just first real quick, again, by way of comments, if we had some social media accounts for LAFCo, this would be a great thing to promote. So maybe it's something we think about in the future. But with that being said, I would motion that we ratify that we approve file 1377, the emergency out of service agreement to the Novato Sanitary District for 2 Hampson Road.
Okay, would somebody like to second? Okay, so that was Commissioner Berto, seconded by Commissioner Lucan. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that matter passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to business items. The first is the election of chair and vice chair. And Jason, would you like to do the staff report?
Yes, based on Marin LAFCo policy, the first meeting in May or the first meeting thereafter, which is this meeting, the commission is to take up the item of who should be chair and vice chair. At that point, it becomes your decision to make, and we just sit here and let you guys decide who you want to be your chair and vice chair.
Okay, any comments? I mean, I just want to make a comment. I've been very fortunate to chair for most of this year, and I'm happy working with Vice Chair Rodoni. I think the commission has been just really super, given that we have so many new members. And I think some of that goes to you, Jason, for giving people an orientation, but I think also just willingness of people to step up to the plate has been great. So I would love to be considered for chair again, given that I didn't do a full term, but I'm happy whatever happens. Anyone have any comments other than, go ahead.
Just a question. I assume the way this goes is if somebody was interested in, saying I want to step up for chair, they would send an email to either Jason or the group. And so
Not to the group, that would violate the
you're right,
program.
but to Jason, is that the way that it typically works here, or?
Since I've been here, I don't get involved in the chair and vice chair elections. It's always there's the group itself at the meeting figures out what it wants to do and then does it. I really do stay out of this. I personally don't like being involved in selecting who my direct supervisor is going to be. I really stay out of that discussion.
Okay, okay, Commissioner Murray.
Mala could correct me, but I believe we have to do the vice chair separate and chair separate. Is that correct, Mala? Or
you can definitely do it separately if it's something that seems like it would be handled unanimously. You could do it as one motion, but I've typically seen it done separately.
okay, so if Commissioner Rodoni's interested, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Rodoni as the continuous vice chair.
Second,
I would second.
assuming he's willing.
Yeah.
Second, assuming he's willing.
We may have to take public comment on this item.
There are no members of the public present.
Okay, would anybody else like to make a comment before we do a vote? Alternate Commissioner Smith.
I'd only like to make a comment that it seems to me there should be some sort of procedure that's in writing in place to avoid uncomfortable processes when there is more than one person perhaps who wants to be the chair. I mean, and if the executive director doesn't want to participate, then there should be something that guides us, it seems. It's
Well,
an
I
annual
think
event.
I would just say this, Dennis has been on this much longer than me, but since the beginning of time, I believe. But I think a couple of things. First of all, we don't get burdened down by process, but there is a personnel policy. And one of the things we talked about a few months ago was looking at the vice chair when we take up the personnel policy, and so we can do that then. But I also just, my vote is, this is pretty informal group, and I don't think we need to be burdened with excessive process, but that's my thoughts. Yes, Commissioner Murray.
So to address Commissioner Smith's comment is perhaps when this comes around is our EO can let us know what emails he has received and interest from commissioners if that's appropriate.
There's Brown Act issues that get involved if I start talking to multiple of you, which is why it has to be done in the meeting itself. Unfortunately, there's not really a way, and I see Mala shaking her head agreeing with me on this, that there's not really a way to have the discussion about chair other than having it in this room at this time.
Jason, perhaps you misunderstood me. I meant at this meeting, you would then recount. I've had received these emails and the following are interests in vice chair.
I would be fine doing that, 'cause that's just repeating back what commissioners have told me. That wouldn't be a problem for me.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good recommendation. Commissioner Berto.
To Chair Kohler's point, I think, part of that discussion that we had at a prior meeting was around, do we figure out a rotation? Which I think in the future would be prudent. I think considering, the current makeup of, the chair and vice chair, and considering that, basically you're looking at, I think with Craig and Eric and Larry and myself, we're the other members who would, I think, be eligible. But aside from Craig, we're all still pretty new. I would be comfortable keeping the chair and the vice chair the way it is right now.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table for Vice Chair Rodoni to continue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, seeing none, do we want to, we can have the uncomfortable conversation.
I was gonna,
Make a
if Commissioner Berto's previous comment was a motion, I'd be happy to second it.
I do consider it a motion. If you consider it a motion, Madam Chair.
Sure. Okay, so that was Commissioner Berto first and Commissioner Lucan second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Well, that passes unanimously. And I want to say thank you all. I'm really honored to be part of this group, and having been on it, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. I really learned a lot. So I think we all benefit by this. So moving on to the next item, which is approval of First Amendment to Executive Officer Agreement. And I think Mala, you are on board here.
Thank you, Chair Kohler. What is before you is consideration of a First Amendment to the Executive Officer's Employment Agreement. It would be effective July 1, 2024, and it includes for a 1% merit increase in salary, which would increase his salary from approximately $177,625 to $179,402. In addition, his existing agreement provided that he would receive any cost of living adjustments that the commission authorized for the other staff. The commission authorized a 3% COLA for staff that would be effective July 1, 2024. So his salary, including his merit and COLA increase, would then increase to $184,784. We're asking that you authorize the chair to execute the First Amendment to his employment agreement. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mala? I just want to also add that want to thank the commission for our earlier discussion, and also working with Vice Chair Rodoni, working with Executive Officer Freed on the discussion on compensation. So appreciate everyone. So with that, let's open it up to public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even ask. Did anyone have any comments?
Yeah. A question for Mala. And I don't know the answer to this, and I don't know how it's been done in other places. Does the merit kick in before the COLA or vice versa? And is that a
Yeah, good question. Vice Chair Rodoni, we Chair Kohler and I had this discussion as well. So the merit will kick in, and then the COLA will be on top of the merit, and that's how it was calculated.
Okay, and then Commissioner Chu.
Yeah, I'm not speaking for the EO, but if I were in that position, I not want a car allowance because it becomes taxable income. It'd be better if you submitted the reimbursements for the standard mileage rate.
The tax expert right here.
Okay, well, at this point, he has a
Yeah,
car
he-
allowance,
he
so
had
next
to.
year,
I'm just saying that, you know,
if he
that's,
wants mileage.
Mhm.
But remember, the car allowance is actually much more because we only pay for mileage driven on business, not from his home. So I think there's sort of a financial benefit to a car allowance.
yeah, when you use a standard mileage rate, it's usually about double what your actual cost out of pocket per mile is also.
Okay, well, great. So thank you for adding that. Anyone else have any questions, comments? So I'd open it up to public comment. I only see one person in the room. And any comments on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom.
Okay, bringing it back, would somebody like to make a motion? I think I see Commissioner Chu.
I'll move this item
Okay.
before you.
Sorry, I was looking up.
Do you want
language.
a second?
Pro.
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, that matter passes unanimously. Okay, now we are moving on to, we are rolling now. Discussion and possible approval of item related to Cal LAFCo Annual Conference. And with that, I will turn it over to Executive Officer Freed.
Thank you. Before I get to the 3 items on your list, I wanted to give you a heads up that earlier this week, I received a survey from the staff workshop we did back in April. And there was a panel that was done on ADA compliance that Claire and I both helped put together with our friends at Streamline. That ended up being the top rated panel in the entire workshop. So I want to give Claire a bit of kudos because she did a lot of work to help make that staff workshop panel happen. So good for us. So people enjoy and now understand that they need to be doing more for their ADA compliance on their websites, which I think is a good educational lesson for all the Cal LAFCo members that were in attendance. So moving on to the individual items, I'm going to take these on one at a time because each of them potentially has approvals that need to be done, and I don't want to get things confused between various parts of it. The first part is there is the Cal LAFCo Board of Directors does an annual election for its membership or for its board. It splits the board into 4 regions. We are in one region, and then each region has 4 seats. 2 of them are up in any given year. This year's cycle is the county seats and the special district seats. So those are the ones that are up. If anyone that are in those seats wants to run for them, we need to nominate them. Technically speaking, we could do this at our August meeting, but if you're running for one of these seats, they can get competitive. So knowing now and putting your name out there now can be very helpful for a member that wants to run for that seat. I did put out word to the 4 members or 6 members actually, because alternates can actually run for those seats as well. I did not receive word back that any of them are interested, but if someone wants to change their mind tonight, they're welcome to do so.
Okay. Commissioner Murray.
So since I've been on LAFCO, I have run for the special district seat in our coastal area that Jason has spoke about to serve on the state Cal LAFCO board. And what we found is one member from Contra Costa has been there an awfully long time, who always had a purpose to serve there in order to provide other services at a state level. So I think a lot of us kind of acknowledge that, but there's some discussion tonight about rotating folks and having an opportunity for others to serve. And I think that's really important for Cal LAFCO, and that might be something to challenge the EO statewide on what do you do in these circumstances when I know I ran and I was very close, but it seems like there's close associations with other counties, LAFCOs, that kind of perpetually push a single person forward. So that might be a real challenge and dissuade some very good people in our coastal region from even considering running. That's an issue. I think that's kind of before us, but I won't be considering a running this year.
Okay.
Person in Contra Costa County.
Okay, so anyone from special districts or county interested in running, I see no takers on that item. And do we have to take comment on that?
We can do all these items and before you did an official vote, if we
Okay.
did one, you would take public comment then.
Okay.
The next item is the annual awards. In your packet, you will see that there are several different types of awards that Cal LAFCo gives out annually. If the commission wants to make a nomination, we can do so. Once again, I think we do have a little bit of time. We can actually do this at the August meeting, but since we have it now, might as well put it on the agenda with the other stuff. If anyone wants to make a nomination, you can. I don't have any real strong recommendations this year for us. I think in the past we've tried. I will just give you my personal opinion on this. The Cal LAFCo Awards tends to go for things that are Cal LAFCo related and not necessarily a great project that an individual LAFCo did, but something that impacts Cal LAFCo as a whole. And while we do a lot of good work with Cal LAFCo, I don't know if we necessarily have anything to nominate on that front that would actually win. I think we have plenty of things we could nominate if we wanted to, just to put our names out there, but is it worth the time and effort if I can predict who's probably going to win these things already?
Well, I think a couple of years ago, there was a nomination for Sashini
Yes.
McEntee, and there was also one for you.
Yep.
And I believe that was for the fire consolidation work.
No, that was actually just for a lot of work that I had done in
Okay.
general,
All right.
and that she had done in general.
And we were not successful, but I don't think that should deter us. I mean, so Commissioner Berto,
So may I ask, is this generally?
by the
for-
way, is your mic on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can't.
Is this generally for individual members or our LAFCO as a whole?
It's individuals.
It's depending on the award. Some awards are for individuals. Some awards are for the LAFCO and the work. Like you can nominate like an MSR for the work for what it's in it. Jaron does great MSRs, but the ones that tend to win from an MSR perspective were they did a major fire consolidation, and that's what came out of that MSR, and so that's what gets the award type of a thing. So it's a combination depending on which specific award you're looking at.
What about like the policy you passed? I wasn't on the board at this time that allowed us to do what we just did with the Novato Sanitary District.
That is creating the policy itself, technically speaking, and this is where I get frustrated with Cal LAFCO at times. It's supposed to be work that was done within the last 12 months. That policy was created, actually it predates me, to be honest with you, so I can't take credit for the policy. So nominating the policy itself, I'm not sure would qualify because it was done at least 6 years ago.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other questions, staff? Okay, next item, please. And
Okay.
this is on nominations for voting delegates. to
Yeah.
The annual conference, but I think you first want to ask who wants to go.
Yeah, that was going to be my first question is, does anyone know if they're planning to go? This is one is going to be out at Tuolumne, which is out near Yosemite. It's a bit of a drive to get out there. There's no real airports that you can fly to from here that would be any better than just driving there directly. I know Craig was there a few years ago. I will say this is a very popular spot. If you're looking to go, you need to tell me now. So as soon as those hotel rooms open up, I can reserve them, because last time we waited a little bit and all of us ended up staying 20 minutes away from the hotel because that was as close as we could
So
get.
it's at the Tenaya Lodge.
Yeah.
Which is a very popular spot
Yep.
for a lot of folks. A lot of conferences are done there.
Yep.
Does anyone, I don't know.
Oh, hold on. I can get you the dates. Hold on one second here. Let me get to that staff memo.
October 16th
Yeah.
and 18th.
And just so you know, it conflicts with the Cal Cities Conference.
I'll be at Cal Cities.
So I think you sent us an email on this recently.
Yes.
So I know for me, I've been to the Tenaya Lodge for Bar Association conferences. It's quite a drive, and given what's happening in Fairfax, I know I personally can't
Okay.
dedicate the time to I went to that conference a couple years ago in Orange County. I wanted to go last year, but it conflicted
Mhm.
with a council meeting.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great opportunity for folks to go, and I think it's a great place to go. Anyone interested in going? I see no takers over
All right.
here.
Well, I will be going because I always go to them because it's a good chance for me to meet up with some of the other EOs, and that's kind of where we hatched the shared services agreement. So
Okay, so it looks like Commissioner Murray is raising his hand.
So I don't know if it's kind of endemic in Marin, but everyone's so busy, like other conferences and
Cal
things
Cities.
committed to. But I think it's really important to have representation from Marin besides just our staff there. I know Roger attended one in Monterey. I will defer to others who would like to attend, but if no one attends, then I can make time to attend. But
Well, I see no
I
takers
think
sitting
others have
here.
been there.
Roger, are you interested in going?
I can look at it. I hadn't really, I went last year for the education.
Right, that's why I went.
And it was valuable for that. I wasn't sure I wanted to make it an annual thing, but if there really is a need for somebody to be there, I can make more of an effort to look at it. I don't know the dates offhand.
Well, he just gave it October
Yeah,
16th.
it's October 16th to 18th. And I will say Commissioner Hilliard also went to last year's conference and she's not here tonight. So we can circle back and figure out one commissioner who can go and make this final decision if we need to at the next meeting, because it will
Why
before the
don't,
deadline.
why don't we do something which is assume at least one will go
Mhm.
and try to book a hotel reservation
Yeah.
that you can break?
Yep.
If that's all right. You know,
It is worthwhile if people not going.
Yeah.
I think everybody who,
not, I'm sure, Dennis, you've probably been before.
Yeah, many years ago. I went to there, I think, the last time they had. it.
Okay. So let's at least consider maybe potentially two, and just I guess a suggestion for you is maybe you could send an email asking folks who weren't here tonight
Yep.
if they would like to attend, so that we would, I just hate to wait, because I know when you can't stay at Tenaya, maybe you're staying at some other
Yeah, it's
not
a
great place.
we stayed at a nice place, don't get me wrong, but it was a bit of a drive to get to and from the conference each day. So it did hamper a little bit. 'Cause like some of the things that actually go on are like the after hours type, like after the conference meetings are done, there's still a lot of like socializing that occurs. And if you're at another hotel, you kind of lose a little bit of that. So
Okay, well, why don't you think about
Okay.
booking like 2 or 3 rooms since
Yep.
you're gonna go? And as far as voting delegates, let's decide that in
the next meeting,
August.
yeah, we can do that.
Okay, and with that, is there any public comment on Zoom on this item?
No members of the public have joined yet.
Okay, well, with that, we're gonna roll through your executive officer report, please.
Perfect. So the first item is our budget update. As you'll see, we are still continuing to be under budget, but as was mentioned in the earlier discussion about the budget itself, we do have one line item that has already gone over budget for the year. It's not very much, but we have gone over on professional services, and that's partly due to all the work that Jaren found that needed to be done with our GIS stuff. That is unfortunately just a costly thing to do, to create brand new layers and all that stuff. So we have gone a little over budget, but not by much. I'm not concerned by it. Overall, we're doing just fine with our budget, as scale perspective. Moving on. Oh,
Is that excuse me, an ongoing expense? Or-
that should, I want to say no. However, having said that, some of the issues we had were because things were not updated and changed after the water study was done. I do have some concerns as soon as Jaren starts looking at the Central Marin one, that we're going to have some repeat of this potentially with the next MSR. After that, it shouldn't be. So I like, it's not repeating, but it could be one more year of some sort of issue coming up. Although we know those agencies that are in the Central Marin study do all have the correct layers instead, or at least have layers in there. So it's a matter of whether or not we have to be correcting them or not based on what's been done in the past. So this is not, unfortunately, the first time that my predecessor did not get things put in GIS. When I first started, I found out that none of the applications that were done prior to me being here with my predecessor actually got put. Most of them, I shouldn't say none of them, most of them had not been entered into the GIS system. And so that was one of the things when I first started, I ended up having to correct, was getting all those applications at the time to the county, who then updated the system for us. So I'm not shocked or surprised that the stuff from the MSRs didn't get updated either.
So I guess my question, Jason, is, and maybe I'm wrong, is this related to getting out of Marin Map?
No.
Okay.
Part of it is some of the things we discovered were because we are out of Marin Map now. Yet that there's a small bit that is there, but like the GIS layer is missing. I don't put that on Marin Map itself. Marin LAFCo never asked to have them created.
Sure, I get that. Okay.
So I think that the bulk of the costs were really us not doing it in the past rather than it being a Marin Map issue. There are some cleanup stuff that's there, but that's minimal in cost.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget? Okay.
Seeing none, okay.
Moving on then to current pending proposals. You did have one new proposal today, which was the out of service agreement. I expect that to come back at some point in the future. We have no other applications in the official hopper. We do have one where we know an application's coming. They've given us all the paperwork and stuff, but I believe there's an easement issue that needs to be worked out. And so we're waiting until they work out the easement issue before they actually officially bring that application to us. Because we explained to them, we can't just get a word and a handshake because we've seen what that's done in the past. We actually need to have a recorded easement in place. And for those that aren't aware, that the handshake issue was pre-me. It was something that we had to clean up. So we're waiting for that. So there's potentially another one there. We should also be getting some other applications coming up, and which moves me well to our work plan. We are getting very close to getting the Sanitary District number 2, which is Corte Madera Sanitary District, and Ross Valley Sanitary District boundary cleanups done. We had a good meeting today with Ross Valley to make sure that we had all their paperwork and all their stuff on their side done. We're having a similar meeting to that next week. So while I'm not sure it'll be on the August agenda, it's quite possible that we could have this on the October agenda, really a multi-year working effort between the 3 agencies to figure out how to clean up some boundary issues where people were in the wrong sanitary district and getting service from the other one, type of a thing. So that one should be coming along, and there should be a few others as well that will be coming our way. And on the work plan, you will see that there are some what I consider major changes that have popped up. The town of Tiburon has now expressed interest in getting formally annexed into the Tiburon Fire Protection District since I believe it's the 80s. Don't quote me on that. They have been contracting services, and that's kind of a no-no. You really shouldn't be contracting for over 40 years. You really should be, if at this point you're really going to be in their district, you should be in their district. And so we are starting to have the early discussions, trying to get a meeting set up with the Tiburon folks, the Tiburon Fire folks to have that discussion with them. We also, in this time frame, there's been some discussion by San Rafael Sanitary District of seeing if they can have CMSA, excuse me, Central Marin Sewer Agency, take over the day-to-day operations as far as like overseeing their staff and stuff like that. They've been having some issues because they are tied into the San Rafael pay system, that they're losing employees because they can get paid better if they're working for an actual district. And so they're starting some discussions with that. Ross Valley has asked us to be part of some of those discussions. So I'm starting to join some of those discussions. I'm actually next week going to be going to Ross Valley's board to have a discussion about what an MSR is, because they seem to think that an MSR can do some things that it really doesn't do around this issue.
Can I just interrupt you? You mentioned that San Rafael is interested in having CMSA take over potentially their sanitary district, but then you jumped into Ross Valley. Is that a separate item?
They are intertwined together because Ross Valley is a member of CMSA.
Right.
And so they're trying to understand what it means if San Rafael employees become CMSA employees, how does that impact the JPA that's involved? It's like a
Okay.
whole.
All right. I just got a little confused.
Yeah, no, sorry. It can get very confusing. So thank you for stopping me on that. So I'll be presenting to the Ross Valley board just so they have an understanding of what some of this means and what LAFCo's role is that we would play in such a situation. Because San Rafael Sanitary will still continue to exist under what they're currently looking at, but their long-term thinking is this a way to start the consolidation of the Central Marin agencies and create one large Central Marin sewer district, rather than having it broken up into the 3 current parts that make up CMSA, which is definitely something that we want to see done. So those are the 2 big high-level things that have popped up. I will also note, as I mentioned in the staff memo, that I went to Marin City CSD. They had some questions, wanted to talk to me. I ended up spending over an hour talking with that board about what LAFCo is and how we can work together. I think it was a very productive discussion. I'm anticipating to have more of those with their board at future meetings as well. They have a lot of issues that they really want to start looking at, and I'm glad that they invited us in to start having some of those discussions with them.
Didn't they, about a year ago or a year and a half ago, wasn't there some interest and then they dropped it?
This is not necessarily about incorporation. This is just about the CSD wanting to have some discussions about things like, like they have streetlights that they have to maintain. It's a large part of their budget and they're trying to figure out like is there things that they can be doing differently or better? And there's just other things that are outside of the incorporation. Incorporation was on one of the discussions, but there was a lot of other things that were on their list that were actually, in my opinion, sounded like were higher on their priority list than incorporation.
Okay, well, just a suggestion. If it's about streetlights, MGSA really deals with that. So it may be a good idea to put him in touch with Adam McGill.
Yeah, no, I know that unfortunately MGSA actually does not cover Marin City.
Okay, well, there's that.
Yeah, I learned that today when I looked on the website. I went and looked at the thing and they said we don't cover Marin City or the two parts of the county they don't cover. So I'm going to find out from Adam why that's the case.
It may be that there's an opportunity
Yeah,
there. Okay, well, good.
exactly.
Anything else you want to add on the work plan?
I think those are the high level ones. There's a few other smaller things that are in there. If you have any questions on them, I'm happy to answer. And then the final item was Commissioner Murray wanted to share some information with the rest of the commission about the legislative process. And so we included that in the correspondence section. And that's the end of my review.
Before I open up to questions, I just want to thank Commissioner Murray for his report. Appreciate that very much. Okay, any questions of staff on the EO report? I see Commissioner Murray.
So, Jason, just a few things, and you could kind of let me know the realm of it, but here in Marin, there's some, particularly central Marin, there's some large developments about to happen. Northgate, where the population is going to increase about a third in size. So there'll probably be some regional circulation issues. As circulation issues, things at LAFCo, since it may affect multiple jurisdictions, of a concern of LAFCO, or I know we can promulgate certain things sometimes.
As a reminder, we are not a planning agency, so we don't that would all be covered in any sort of, I'm assuming like San Rafael, when they're doing their review of the redoing of the Northgate area, that is what they're reviewing in their process, and they would be the ones that would be doing like the sequel review and all that other stuff. So they would be the ones taking the lead on that. We tend to get some of that information, and if we want to make comments, we can. We tend not to, because there's not a jurisdictional boundary dispute that goes on there. It's all covered, so we really wouldn't get involved in that. And as far as the MSR goes, Jaren has talked about the fact that, we will look at future growth as part of what we're looking at, as far as can the agencies involved handle future growth. That is part of an MSR review process, but those don't get necessarily done when the projects themselves are going forward. We do ours as they come forward, and those are on a different time scale and different timeline.
Yeah, I just think it may be interesting to look at in Jaren's review of the MSRs. There's the arena goals and the push on the locals to really drive home increasing density and necessary number of housing units, but there's also collateral damage with that as well, and how to mitigate that and make sure that that's done well and quality that Marin expects. And things like, are we needing less traffic lights and more turnabouts that, some of the areas such as Tahoe and Santa Barbara have done. So, I don't know if that's kind of a special study realm or not, or how we could help the locals, but
that would be if it fit anywhere, it would be a special study. But even that, I would be a little leery on getting into some of that stuff, because that's really what the planning departments do for the county or for each of the cities. And that's not really something we're supposed to get into, that level of what are your traffic circles looking like, and think that's not really.
I think I would just add San Rafael is well staffed.
Yep.
For this kind of work. They're well positioned. So I think we need to let them do their process.
yeah, it's fine. It seems like it's coming up. I appreciate your input, Jason, and technical expertise in LAFCO realm. One of the other items is Richardson Bay has some non-operational facilities that apparently town of Tiburon will be acquiring and perhaps enhancing
Correct.
recreational facilities in Cagney Green. Is that something that we're involved in, or?
No, it's not, because there are no jurisdictional boundary issues. They did call me and talk to me about it, so I am well aware of what you're referring to. And there's not, because there's no boundary jurisdictional issues. No agency's changing what they actually how they function. It's just who's overseeing a piece of land. And that's not really our responsibility as long as it's in the correct jurisdiction.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Well, I would ask if there are any commissioner announcements and requests. I see none. So we are adjourned to our next meeting, August 8th, 2024, 6:30 PM. Same place. See you all here. Thank you, everyone.